Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Commentary. During the election, the support of the younger demographic was seen as one of the keys to President Trump's victory. However, more than 100 days after Trump took office, these young voters found that their living costs were increasing, all of which were related to a series of Trump's policies. American media analyzed that the advantage of young people's support for the Republican Party is undergoing a reversal. Bloomberg reported on May 3rd that young Americans are increasingly dissatisfied with the Trump administration. Trump's insistence on initiating a trade war with China, targeting Chinese e-commerce platforms like Shein and Tmall, as well as TikTok, could disrupt the lives of American youths who are accustomed to fast fashion, TikTok videos, and Xbox, further impacting these young consumers who have just gained economic independence and are already under inflationary pressure. Some young people are complaining that it's really frustrating, they can't afford it, and they don't know what to do. The tariff policies have made a mess of their lives. At the same time, there are also voices of discontent within the Republican Party. The report indicates that Trump's massive imposition of tariffs could affect the Republican Party's midterm congressional elections next year. Polls from the American Edison Research Company show that between 2020 and 2024, Trump made significant progress among young voters. In North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, the support rate among young voters increased by 14%, 15%, and 18% respectively. In Michigan, Trump's support rate among voters aged 18 to 29 was even comparable to that of former Vice President Kamala Harris. The report states that the support from the younger demographic helped Trump return to the White House and allowed the Republican Party to gain a slim majority in the House of Representatives. However, 100 days later, these young voters began to worry that Trump's trade policies aimed at reshaping the economy were harming their interests. After taking office, Trump initiated a trade war on a global scale, announcing a 145% tariff on Chinese goods and targeting the small exemption policies of China, Hong Kong, and the mainland. In response, China firmly retaliated, and besides tariffs, it also imposed export controls on various rare earth-related items, which were set to expire on May 2nd. Bloomberg stated that Trump has so far failed to force China to the negotiating table and has already caused serious consequences for the U.S. economy. Americans who rely on relatively cheap Chinese products are suffering greatly. Products from Tmall and Shein no longer enjoy tax exemption policies, and TikTok's future is equally uncertain. CNN and Bloomberg both noted that on April 25th, before the new tariffs took effect, Tmall and Shein raised the prices of a large number of products from lawn chairs to swimwear. Shein, in particular, increased the prices of almost all categories of products on its platform, with some items more than doubling in price. The price of kitchen paper towels saw the largest increase, soaring by as much as 377%. A study conducted in February by economists from UCLA and Yale University indicated that approximately 48% of small packages were sent to the poorest areas in the United States, while only 22% of the packages were sent to the wealthiest regions. At the same time, data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics also shows that in 2021, the expenditure on clothing by the lowest income households in the U.S. accounted for more than 3 times the share of their income compared to wealthy households. A recent article by CNN mentioned that the Trump administration's targeting of Chinese e-commerce platforms would result in the greatest losses for low-income families in the U.S. In the U.S., when President Trump took action against Chinese e-commerce platforms like Tmall and Shein, low-income families were shocked because they had no other options. Bloomberg mentioned that young Americans are now starting to feel frustrated as they previously played a crucial role in Trump's election victory, helping him achieve the best performance among voters under 30 for a Republican presidential candidate in 20 years. A recent poll by the economist and polling agency YouGov found that in April, 57% of Americans aged 18 to 29 disapproved of Trump's performance. Since Trump took office, this percentage has increased by 14 points, and compared to other age groups, this increase is the largest. YouGov's data analyst David Montgomery said that young independent voters have shifted from slightly supporting Trump to strongly opposing him. Bloomberg believes that although the White House may still change its tariff approach, imposing heavy tariffs on Chinese goods could have a lasting political impact on the Republican Party in next year's midterm congressional elections. In its report, Bloomberg quoted a 26-year-old content creator and Detroit University student Che Si, Hollins said that tariffs affect every aspect of her life, including rising prices for her phone, electricity bills, and her favorite online clothing store. She said Shein is currently the only place where she buys clothes, and she also purchases other household items from this site. But now I feel like I can no longer be creative with fashion. She said she almost exclusively buys clothes from Shein. She buys a large number of new clothes each season and often shares them with her social media followers. Bloomberg reported that, like other young Americans, Hollins has found that the value for money at American shopping malls is declining, with fewer clothing options and rising prices. Due to changes in consumer behavior, some affordable retailers have closed down or reduced their physical store operations. In addition to clothing, tariffs have also had an impact. Microsoft announced that they will increase the price of Xbox consoles produced in China, with a price hike of up to $100 per unit. Nintendo has also delayed the pre-orders for the new Switch console. Young American entrepreneurs are also feeling the pressure. 32-year-old Chelsea Brown owns a home goods company. She applied for her first loan to alleviate the increased costs due to US tariff policies, as some of her most popular products are custom-made in China. Brown said, "I obviously can't afford a 145% tariff, and I don't even know what to do now." She has 2 full-time employees and some contractors, and since the profit margins are at a medium to low level, bearing the tariff costs would be unsustainable. Bloomberg reported that within the Republican Party and among her supporters, there are voices of dissatisfaction with Trump's tariff policies, although some young Republicans still believe Trump needs some time. However, for Benjamin Rossifoni, the 20-year-old chairman of the Republican chapter at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, he said that the tariffs initially introduced by Trump were astonishingly high and somewhat crazy. The conclusion is that those young American voters who cast their vote for Trump feel as if American politics played a big joke on them, and in the end, they have no one to blame but themselves for the hard times. Regarding the current political situation in the United States, former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir has an interpretation worth considering. This week, Asia News Media, under the South China Morning Post, along with several other media outlets, interviewed Mahathir, who is nearing his centennial. Trump has only been in office for 100 days, yet he has already stirred up a lot of chaos. In response, Mahathir candidly remarked that Trump is already behind the times in many aspects, and the era of the American empire is coming to an end. Regarding the tariff issue, the report pointed out that in recent years, some companies producing in China have shifted their production capacity to Southeast Asia, driving rapid industrialization in the region and also solidifying China's position in the global manufacturing supply chain. After Trump took office, he ignored the fact that American companies also benefited from trade globalization, adopting a victim stance and targeting tariffs at Southeast Asian countries such as Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and Myanmar. He even claimed that these countries were co-conspirators with China in deceiving the United States. For Mahathir, these tariffs and Trump's other policies are a blatant insult to the openness and cooperation that the world has strived for since the end of World War II. He criticized by saying that we are trying to break down borders, but he is building barriers. Mahathir also believes that Trump's tariff measures are part of a broader US attempt to weaken China, but he does not believe this will succeed. Mahathir emphasized that China has the technology and capability to withstand an economic slowdown. He said that China's overall market size is larger than the combined markets of Europe and the United States, so the Chinese economy will continue to grow, and there is no way to stop China. As a longtime critic of Western foreign policy, Mahathir also pointed out that the United States is continuously provoking and escalating confrontations with China, which is equivalent to launching a war in a non-traditional sense. He said that the Americans believe they must maintain their position as the world's brain, so they are trying every possible way to stop China. He said this means confrontation, sanctions, and various other measures. In Mahathir's view, he does not see Trump's actions as a deviation from the norm. On the contrary, this is a reflection of the consistent approach of the United States and a manifestation of its deep geopolitical instincts. A report by Time magazine noted that during his political career, Mahathir had a conservative attitude towards Chinese investments in Malaysia, but now he welcomes investments from China and harshly criticizes the United States for attempting to contain this rising superpower. He believes that the Chinese are a very hardworking people, highly skilled, and there is no way to stop their development and growth. China will do everything possible to maintain its market. Although Mahathir emphasized that Malaysia's foreign policy has long adhered to the principle of neutrality, he couldn't help but criticize Trump when speaking about him. He said, "I think Trump does not understand this world. He is 100 years behind the times." As described in foreign media reports, as Malaysia's longest-serving prime minister, Mahathir has witnessed the rise and fall of many empires, and now he seems to see a familiar pattern of decline playing out in the United States. It is worth noting that Malaysia's shift from resisting to embracing Chinese investment demonstrates the global landscape change with China's comprehensive rise in power.